Wednesday morning, waking up in Cologne. The bed and duvet feels so comfortable is the first thought on my mind. The second one is how strange the last 48 hours have been. Like a window into an alternative reality, a present-day dystopia neatly hidden away from our collective consciousness. My body feels so weak, luring me down under the duvet again for another 5 minutes, or 5 hours, or an eternity. But I feel an impulse and a responsibility to write, to recollect as much as I can before this window closes itself up again. The Hambi camp was very small. Several tents for people to sleep in, a kitchen, a library, a workshop for building things, and a room for people to come together for weekly deliberations. This meant that forest dwellers had to come here occasionally or have the water brought to them in small containers. Waffle has been staying here since after the forest evictions in 2018. I didn't ask him why he doesn't go back to the forest, nor do I think he would have given me an answer. He said I could stay in the camp and put my tent not far from his. But I had a will to go into the forest. He then said that I should go to the vigil and ask for more information there on how to find a barrio in the forest that could accommodate me. There are several barrios, or small neighborhoods in the forest, where people live in community. Before I left, he gave me some tips on how to talk to people, which questions I could ask them, and especially which ones I shouldn't. As the police have been collaborating with RWE, they were monitoring the activists regularly, and so it was important to have a security culture where sensitive information is communicated as little as possible. At that point, I couldn't imagine how deep this culture goes, and how almost anything was considered sensitive. And so I left my backpack at the camp and headed out on foot. There was a young guy just outside the vigil. His name was Molly. I asked him if he was staying at the forest. He replied, kinda, and went back to his business. Another girl was there and picked up on the conversation. She showed me a map of the forest and told me that I should try to go to Luna, a barrio that is mostly international and welcoming to new visitors. I tried to continue the conversation. She said I should just try, and if she doesn't feel comfortable with sharing, then she will say so. She replied. A minute later, and she and Molly started back towards the forest without any additional word. Their hostility was penetrating. Why are they so harsh? Don't they want other people who care about the forest to join and help them? I almost wanted to give up and leave, but the will to go into the forest was stronger. I followed the directions to Luna, straight all the way, then turn right at the Jesus point, and continue a bit further until I see the tower. Only now, in retrospect, I can appreciate or even be amused by the names of the barrios, which seem to have been taken from the Lord of the Rings and other fantasy worlds. At that time, I was far too focused on the goal and far too anxious to think of anything else. I reached Luna and saw the tower, a magnificent tree house spanning several trees and 3 floors tall. On the top of the ladder, there was a sign which read, "Vegan or jump." A person was sitting on a couch under the tower. He, or I should rather say they, were all dressed in black, including a mask that covered all of their face and left 2 holes for the eyes only. Since they were eating, they occasionally pulled down the lower part of the mask so that their mouth could access the next bite and then pulled it back up again. I approached them and said hello. "I'm coming for the vigil." "It's okay," I answered.
What means today?
"It means that I will not eat or bring here anything which is not vegan." They seemed to be fine with the answer and asked me how long was I planning to stay. "Somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. Their name was Clem. It soon became apparent that Clem was more radically anti-capitalist than any other person I've met in my life. Their fight was their life, and their life was their fight. Good can be radical. Evil can never be radical. It can only be extreme, for it possesses neither depth nor any demonic dimension. Yet, and this is its horror, it can spread like a fungus over the surface of the earth and lay waste the entire world. I used to think that there is no such thing as extreme left, that it was just a propaganda of right-wing politicians. As we reached the entry to the forest, he used a scarf to cover the lower part of his face.
You will never see their face.
He thought I was afraid. Trying. When we hide ourselves, We internalize the identity of the oppressed and let fear rule our entire being. Walking towards Luna, the place was empty. A red star and what seemed to be a picture of Stalin. Are you fine with us being here?
I don't know you. What do you want?
We climbed the ladder and entered the first floor. There were 2 beds and a battery, which was connected to a solar panel on the roof. Some of the tofu was completely rotten. I preferred to set up my tent outside. We climbed down, and I told him I can wait here until the others come back. He wished me good luck and left. Someone was there. They introduced themselves as Robin. I should say that both Robin and Clem would be considered male in a heteronormative society. Yet both of them prefer the pronoun they as an act of opposition to patriarchy. Robin was going to cook something and asked if I wanted to join them. They fetched some food of the not yet rotten tofu and said we could get some veggies from downstairs. Shall I wash them first?
We are on course for
People are suffering.
If you want to.
The water are precious. We talked about society, about the climate crisis, and about the future.
You all come to...
I told them that I had a very different idea of this place before coming here, expecting to find tree-hugging hippies. They laughed and said that I'm probably quite shocked then. They were right. They also said that perhaps one learns much more when reality doesn't match one's expectations. They were right. As the conversation continued, they mentioned a book called Desert, written by an anonymous writer, which claims that it is already too late to stop the social and environmental collapse. And then when all hope is gone,
I suppose I still have some hope within me. Hope that, while society is collapsing, more and more people will awaken to a new consciousness, leaving our comfortable yet superficial lifestyles behind, and reconnecting with a source of energy and wisdom within us that will instruct our every action to be in alignment with life itself.
I stayed there for a bit longer and then excused myself to go to my tent. I didn't get much sleep as I was a bit cold and quite uncomfortable on this very narrow and thin camping mattress, a sleeping bag that felt too synthetic, and no pillow. Am I also too used to my comfort? I woke up around 9 a.m. This is too much for me. I don't belong here. I have to leave. And I wondered how many other things I was missing because I'm not used to these different ways of seeing it. On my way back to the forest, I realized that if I keep walking straight along this path, I will reach the coal mine. I had to see it with my own eyes, to witness the extent of our ongoing battle against nature. Walking past blockades and ground that was dug in order to keep police vehicles from entering, I finally reached the end of the forest. It was as simple as that. One step you're in it, and in the next you're out. The trees, the insects, the wild animals, the birds, all made way for dead earth. A few meters in front of me was a wall made of sand. I climbed it and gazed into the distance. A panoramic view of desolation stretching for miles on end. All of this used to be the forest, and now it is dead. The bottom of the pit is 500 meters below ground, like a knife penetrating the core of the earth. Tears were flooding my eyes. If we knew she could feel, would we still do that? I sat down and closed my eyes. On the fence between two worlds, I sit and meditate. On my left side, a forest, and the wasteland on my right. Here, Past and future are united in a post-apocalyptic present of sacred silence. Om Shanti. The sound of footsteps in the distance. I open my eyes. A young forest dweller and an older man were approaching from the side of the forest. They climbed the wall and continued in the direction of the mine, nodding as they passed me by. They left, and I stayed a bit longer and cried some more. If we all cry enough, will our collective tears regenerate the earth? I headed back to Luna. Clem was there. I told them about my experience at the edge of the forest. They asked me how was it. Very sad. I love the tree houses, I said after a while. Did you ever build one? They nodded. How did you do it? They started explaining the process step by step. First, you identify a tree. Then, you attach a small weight to the end of a light rope and throw it across one of the branches. Then, you attach a small weight to the end of the light rope and throw it across one of the branches. They continued on and on, describing everything in great detail, from the special types of knots to different methods of using the pulley, and from multi-level tree houses to winter insulation. It was way too much to comprehend for a person whose highest handicraft achievement was to set up a tent the day before. And the fact that I started having a headache also didn't help. And do you sleep there? They shook their head. Most tree houses were constructed on oaks, while theirs was built on top of an ash tree. In recent years, a fungus has been infecting more and more ash trees, causing them to grow unnecessary branches for the fungus to feed on, while not having enough energy to strengthen their roots. Eventually they become weak and fall. I asked them if I could see their tree house, and they said yes. They fetched a couple of bicycles, and we started riding. We reached the tree house. They told me it is 28 meters above ground, the highest in the forest, and it had a unique design since they built it all on their own. It was a magnificent creation, sitting at the company of the crowns of the trees, triumphantly looking over the forest. And yet the tree itself was weak, and we could see the treehouse swaying in the wind. We headed back, and my headache was getting worse, so I decided to take a quick nap before leaving. I woke up 1 or 2 hours later, but the headache was still there. Was it the food?
I wondered what Robin was.
Feeling suddenly nauseated, I went to one of the trees and vomited.
I have to leave here now.
I heard people talking in the tower. Clem was among them. Clem? Would you like to say goodbye? I'm leaving. I think I got a food poisoning and I feel very bad.
I'm sorry, but you'll be alright.
We hugged and I left. I had to walk to the Bouillet train station, but I felt too exhausted. Someone just arrived with a car. Do you think you could give me a lift to Bouillet?
No.
A few steps later, and I vomited again.
Only 20 more.
Only 20 more minutes to the station.
No time.
No time to rest yet. What would someone who is not so privileged do if they were in my situation? Feeling sick again, I felt like vomiting.
Not inside the train.
Luckily, there were no other people near me, and my vomit was mostly just water by now. Just a little bit further, I arrived at the hotel. Checking in with very few words, I climbed to the second floor, opened the door to my room, and collapsed on the bed. I'm safe. It's been a week since I was in Hambach. The window is closed, but in its place there is a scar, a precious mark of remembrance that my destiny and that of the forest are deeply entangled. Every plane that crosses the sky, every air-conditioned living room, every concrete mall, and every cheap gadget imported from China. Behind the noise and the tumult, they all whisper, Hambach. In a few weeks, I will be moving to Dornach in Switzerland to study anthroposophy. As part of an ongoing research, together with the youth section at the Goetheanum, we have been reflecting on questions that lie at the core of our humanity in this moment of time. The question that was guiding us throughout my time in Hambach was, where has humanity gone? And I could think of no better answer than that panoramic image at the edge of the forest. Humanity hasn't gone into one single place, but rather diverged into many mutually oblivious and seemingly unrelated places. That image is a reminder that they are all connected, that we are all connected. And I cannot help but wonder about my part in all of this. It feels as though I am guided by a strong impulse to bring those divergent paths into a focused, unified whole, to discover the hidden truths and hidden faces of this shared story, and hold them gently with an open hand, visible for anyone to see who is not afraid of looking, to integrate, to reconcile, and to heal. Like Plinio de Signori's desperate confession in Hermann Hesse's The Glass Bead Game. How far body and soul, ideal and reality, have moved apart in our country. How little they know about each other, or want to know. if I had any one task and ideal in life, it was to make myself a synthesis of the two principles, to be mediator, interpreter, and arbitrator between the two. Yet the question is misleading, as humanity has not gone, but actually is going, forever and always. And any attempt to characterize the present moment as something static, as a stopping point, cuts the observer apart from the perpetual motion of undivided wholeness that is the essence of existence. Humanity is going. Humanity will fall in love with truth, and humanity will rise, for truth is in love. Spiral on forever and always.